An autumn rainstorm can blow up in a hurry in the Sierra Nevada country. California skies open up to fill the gullies, to bless the thirsty land. In the winter, falling snows blanket the mountain peaks and valleys. Some of the inhabitants of these Northern California foothills revel in the snow and the wonderful skiing the white blanket provides. Some others are not so enthusiastic. Frequent storms deposit tons of moisture-laden snow on these rugged mountains. When spring comes, the sun's warm rays go to work on this vast snowpack. The melting snows send little fingers of water racing down the mountainside to join the spring rains, to course through the riverbeds, to frolic and froth in the rapids, to nurture the lakes and ponds, to refresh and renew the land. It seems there's water everywhere in the Yuba-Bear country, rushing through the valleys, seeping through the rocky crevices, meandering down the slopes, searching out the rivers and streams. And what shall we do with it? Shall we sit back and let it trickle away to the Pacific? Or shall we put it to work to create a better life for ourselves and our neighbors? That's the question that faced the people of the Yuba-Bear country, and this is the record of their answer. Water. Common, old, ordinary, everyday water. Who thinks of it as a valuable resource? Who considers it a thing of wealth? And yet, we use water so often, in so many ways, we really can't do without it. We need water to irrigate our croplands, to make them yield the good things we eat. We need water to generate the electric power that runs our appliances. We need water to use for fun and recreation, for ourselves and for our families. Because we need water and water resources in so many ways every day of our lives, water is surely one of the most precious natural assets. Water is pure gold. Now that's a strong statement to make here in the Yuba-Bear country of California, for this is gold country. Even now, after 100 years, we can almost hear that historic cry echoing through the hills. Gold! 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 From across the oceans and the prairies, fortune seekers from the four corners of the earth, responding to that cry, came by the thousands to the Yuba-Bear country. They came in search of the shiny yellow metal that could make them rich overnight. At first, they found gold the easy way, panning the streams. But the easy pickings didn't last. They had to find a better way to take the riches from the hills. Hydraulic mining was born. The hillsides were gouged with high-pressure jets of water. Whole banks of gold-rich gravel flowed through the sluices and yielded their treasure. But hydraulic mining demanded a constant flow of water in great quantity. And so, while some men found their fortunes in mining, others won their riches by supplying the miners with water. They brought the water from the rivers of the Sierra by means of flumes, canals, and ditches to the miners' claims. Those crude ditches and canals marked the first successful attempt to harness the waters of the Yuba-Bear country. The men who built the aqueducts of the 1850s were serving their own immediate needs, yet in the process they were laying the groundwork for a water development program which would tap the abundant resources of the rivers and streams 100 years in the future. For water is pure gold, but only when it is captured and put to work. For centuries uncounted, water has been a natural asset of Yuba-Bear country. Located in Northern California, near Lake Tahoe, the Nevada Irrigation District's boundaries span the counties of Yuba, Nevada, Placer, and Sierra. Two picturesque rivers traverse the area, the Yuba in the north and the Bear in the south. These are the rivers of gold. Fed by rains and melting snows, they seem to offer an endless supply of nature's most essential element. But far-sighted men of the Yuba-Bear country knew better. New users would come, new demands would arise. The rivers of gold would have to be harnessed, their resources developed. And so, in 1921, a small group formed the Nevada Irrigation District. It was headquartered in the town of Grass Valley. The Nevada Irrigation District was born in a climate of intense public controversy. Some people fought the new idea of water development. In the final test, the voters said yes, and the district was officially on its way. The district's first major project was completed in 1927, Bowman Dam. Bowman was a magnificent engineering achievement, the second largest earth-filled dam of its time. It was constructed at the site of an old wood crib dam built by the early hydraulic miners. In the years that followed, the Nevada Irrigation District forged ahead to build and develop new facilities. Reservoirs, dams, siphons, flumes, tunnels, canals. By the middle 1950s, the district could boast a water storage capacity of more than 120,000 acre-feet and an electric generating capacity of 121,000 kilowatts. But California was growing. New residents, new industry, new technologies required more water and more power. The district directors moved to meet this expanding need. In 1958, they ordered engineers and construction consultants of the world-famous Ibasco organization into the field to study the system. In the eyes of professionals, they saw not only what was there, but what could be there, with time and work and vision. They distilled what they saw into a study of the possibilities open to the district. And the possibilities were exciting. More dams, more power plants, new tunnels, new concrete plumes and siphons and canals. But what would it cost? The planners went to work to find out. There were 100,000 items of manpower, materials, and machinery to be estimated. Finally, the last figure was cranked into the adding machine, and it was possible to put a price tag on the plan. The 9-point program of development would cost $65 million. A lot of money, but it would pay for a lot of water power Californians would need in the years ahead. The directors of the Irrigation District went to Pacific Gas and Electric Company, whose participation was a critical factor in the decision to build. For PG&E would be the buyer of the biggest share of the resources the new program would develop. A contract was negotiated and signed for the purchase of the new power to be generated, assuring the financial success of the venture. Local citizens gave their opinions.
It will utilize the water from its highest source in the creeks and rivers through the powerhouses and onto the irrigated land of the ranchers.
We teach conservation in our schools. We adults should practice it by voting for the Nevada Irrigation District bond.
Full development of this project is a vital necessity to our economy. We must go ahead.
We need more recreation areas, and the passing of the bonds will provide more lakes.
I don't know nothing about it, but I surely like fishing.
With their dream nearing reality, directors of the district went to the voters for their decision on the necessary bond issue. When the ballots were counted, the answer was clear. 97% of the voters said yes. Under the management of the Abasco organization, 2 veteran construction firms, Paul Hardiman and Bedford Construction, joined forces to build the massive 9-part facilities. On August 23rd, 1963, in view of the old abandoned railroad bridge spanning Bear River Canyon, people gathered for an unusual sort of groundbreaking ceremony. The old bridge stood on the site where the new Rollins Dam would be erected. There was excitement in the air. 5 years of work and study had gone into the monumental task of researching and planning the Yuba-Bear development program. Now the job was about to begin.
Fire in the hole!
Had to cut roads to many of the construction sites, clawing out a path on the primitive slopes that had slumbered undisturbed for centuries. Now the construction crews fought the calendar, for summer was waning. In a short while, the cold breath of winter would blow across the Sierra Nevada. The job ahead involved a 50-mile system designed to control the waters of the Yuba-Bear rivers. At the beginning of the system stood Jackson Meadows. Here on the Middle Yuba River, at 5,850 feet, the builders went to work to construct a dam, 190 feet high. Surveying teams checked and refined their measurements, locating the intake portal of the diversion tunnel. Blasting holes were drilled on the spillway site, and soon the concrete spillway began to take shape. Meanwhile, a 676-foot tunnel was bored through the hillside. During construction, it would divert the waters of the Yuba from the work site. Later, it would be the outlet for impounded waters, which could be sent coursing through the vast system as needed. Load after load of rock left the quarry on its way to the dam site, and the downstream shell began to rise foot by foot. Where the core of the dam would be based, workmen went about the task of cleaning the area in preparation for the laying of the impervious clay core. To prevent dangerous water seepage later, workmen gouged loose dirt from the crannies and crevices. They even scrubbed the area with wire brushes and swept out the dust with brooms. The cleaning job would have made a housewife envious, but it was necessary. The clay core was placed and compacted in a strip along the center line of the dam. As the builders worked in the remote regions, Ibasco field engineers maintained contact between the job site and their busy offices in Grass Valley. They solved the continuing engineering problems as they arose. While the planning phase continued in the headquarters offices, work in the field proceeded at a brisk pace. An old wood-stave conduit between Milton Reservoir and Bowman Lake was being replaced. With its section hauled to the site on flatbed rigs, a new concrete pipeline was laid in place. Eventually, it would wind almost 2/3 of a mile through the hills. As the job progressed, district directors donned rain gear for an inspection of the existing Milton Tunnel. With a tight schedule to meet, the builders had to have constant contact between headquarters and the widely dispersed sites. Mobile radio transceivers provided a complete communications link. And for transportation, helicopters were often pressed into service. From the copter, it didn't look like the builders were losing much time at the Fauchery lake site. The excavation of the dam site and spillway was completed, and the rock fill for the 40-foot dam was well underway. Snow is a blessing in the mountains of the Yuba-Bear country. It melts in the spring to supply the water that swells the lakes. But construction men don't think of snow as a blessing. Weather is king in the High Sierra, and when the snow starts, construction stops. Yet, eventually, spring arrives again, and the workmen resume their jobs with renewed vigor. Between Bowman Reservoir and Spalding Lake, they built a combined flume and tunnel conduit designed to transfer a steady water supply from Bowman to Spalding, for the old metal flumes were threatened each year by snowslides. Along part of the 8-mile conduit, existing canals were enlarged. A long-fingered grade awl cleared and prepared the canal bed, biting its way along at a rate of several hundred yards a day. Where necessary to reinforce the canal walls, they laid heavy metal mesh as a base and sprayed it over with a thick layer of concrete. The builders set out to bore a 2-mile tunnel through hard granite, so that water traveling between Bowman and Spalding reservoirs could flow in a protected course through the mountain instead of around it. Crews began working around the clock in 3 shifts to speed the task along while the good weather held. In the principal cities of the Yuba-Bear development, the project brought a wave of new activity. In Grass Valley, and in Nevada City, suppliers worked long hours to process and deliver the orders for the hundreds of items necessary for the job. The food markets, too, stayed busy. Construction payrolls kept the cash registers ringing. Construction work gives a man a real appetite. But working hours were precious now as the schedule reached the halfway point. At Dutch Flat on the right bank of the Bear River, the builders had completed the powerhouse substructure and penstock. Now the spiral case that would carry the water to spin the turbine was installed. carry water from Dutch Flat to Chicago Park, a highway paving machine was used to lay the base for an unusually large flume. Carry water up and down the steep defiles, old redwood stave siphons were replaced with steel. Downstream about 5 miles, the Chicago Park forebay had been excavated and the penstock was being installed. The waters would reach the turbines through this huge penstock. Meanwhile, near San Francisco, the scroll cage was being fabricated and machined on one of the largest boring mills of the West Coast. In the finished powerhouse, the water of the Nevada Irrigation District would be converted into more than 37,000 kilowatts of electricity for California homes and industries. Further down the Bear River, another new dam was rising. The Rollins Dam project was the last station in the Bear River development plan. As the raw earth was carried away, a battery of drills prepared the rock for blasting out the spillway area. Across the river, other crews were building a tunnel to divert the flow of the Bear River waters. With the river diverted, the way was clear for the builders to start the dam. Before the dam could be started, the banks and the floor of the river had to be meticulously cleaned. Plans called for the barrier to reach up 260 feet from the river bottom. The backed up waters of the Bear would create a new 825-acre lake, capable of storing 65,000 acre-feet of water. After cleaning, grouting is the next step. Holes are drilled into the bedrock, and liquid concrete is pumped under pressure to fill the cracks and crevices. The surface cavities and irregularities are then filled with concrete, often called dental fill. This guarantees a firm base for the impervious clay core, which will go on top of it. To build the dam, we need sharp rock from the quarry, gravel from the riverbed, sticky red clay from the hillsides. Rock, gravel, clay. Then more gravel and rock. Dump a load of clay, spread it, come compact it, wet it, and dump another load on top. Back and forth. Pick up a load, dump it, go get another. Uphill, downhill, 20 loads of quarry rock, 6 of stream gravel, and 2 of red clay. Then, do it again. Day in, day out. Week in, week out. Month in, month out. Until it's topped out. Scotts Flat Reservoir, while not an electric power project, was also being enlarged. Built originally in 1948, the dam would now be raised 35 feet higher, and its storage capacity would be almost doubled. The increased height of the dam meant a new concrete spillway would be needed. To assure a solid foundation for the spillway, the builders had to excavate to bedrock, 30 feet below the surface of the ground. Thousands of yards of concrete were poured into the prepared basin as the spillway took form. A concrete batch plant was set up near the site of the spillway project. Gravel and dry cement were carefully measured and weighed at the plant. Then loaded into trucks for mixing and delivery to the construction area. Soon the spillway was completed. A steel bridge was put in place across the structure, and that portion of the Nevada Irrigation District Development Plan was a reality. But in other areas, much remained to be done. Through summer, through winter, and through summer again, the builders carved a dream out of the begrudging earth, and now the job was done. It had begun as a dry stack of cold facts and figures. Now, all through the Nevada Irrigation District, the jewels of the Yuba-Bear development stood sparkling in the sun. Jackson Meadows Dam and Reservoir, standing sentinel to capture the rushing waters of the mountains and send them to Milton Dam and Reservoir. From there, as they're needed, they're released to wind their way through the concrete passage of the Milton-Bowman conduit, boring through the mountain's base to emerge on the other side and fill the Bowman Reservoir. Meanwhile, New Fauchery Lake collects the waters of Canyon Creek, holds them in reserve, and spills them also into Bowman Lake. From there, it's a short journey by concrete pipe, canal, and tunnels to the next station along the way, Lake Spaulding. Journey's end? Not yet. At Spaulding, the waters are divided. Some flows through the Deer Creek Power Plant and then down the slopes to Scotts Flat Reservoir, a domestic water supply for Grass Valley and Nevada City. But some of the waters are diverted down the slopes by another way. Following the course of the Bear River, they spill into the gaping intake of Dutch Flat's new power plant. And here is the historic moment of the first surge of water through the turbine as the generator began spinning for tests, and then went on the line. On its way again, the water hurries down 4 miles of flume into the Forebay and Penstock intake. Then through Chicago Park's turbine and generator. Finally, the waters that began their journey high in the mountains, 1/2 miles ago, are held in the wide, cool expanse of Rollins Reservoir, the final outpost in the magnificent system. Here they are released as needed for irrigation during the dry summer months. And where only yesterday a railroad bridge was blasted to start the project, today a plaque is dedicated to celebrate the completion of the Yuba-Bear River development. When you look at the Nevada Irrigation District as it exists today, you can see many different things. Some see new hydroelectric plants providing more power, more jobs, more paychecks for Californians. Some see prosperous fields brought to life by irrigation. Some see growing orchards yielding their fruit. Some see a sportsman's paradise amid the lakes and streams. And some see California families enjoying the sun and the water and each other in a place of beauty man had the wisdom to create, protect, and preserve. For essentially, that's why they spent $65 million in the Nevada Irrigation District. That's why they built the dams and tunnels and lakes and power plants to help Californians everywhere enjoy a little better life for now and for generations to come. That's why they worked and planned it all to turn the Yuba and the Bear into rivers of gold.